The journey out of Egypt was meant to be a path to freedom, a divine promise taking root in the desert sands. But the wilderness is a crucible, a place that tests the very core of a people. For the Israelites, fresh from the shadow of pyramids and the sting of the overseer's whip, the proximity to God was a palpable daily reality. The pillar of cloud by day, the pillar of fire by night. God was not a distant deity, but a constant, guiding presence. Yet, as the book of Jasher recounts, physical closeness to the divine does not automatically silence the rebellion stirring within the human heart. The first whispers of discontent were born from a distorted memory. The hardships of the desert, the monotonous diet of manna, began to warp their perception of the past. Suddenly, Egypt, the house of bondage, was recast in their minds as a land of plenty. They cried out, remembering the fish they ate freely, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. They conveniently forgot the bitter labor, the stolen children, the crushing weight of slavery. Their chains became comfort foods in their memory, a dangerous illusion that made their current freedom feel like a punishment. This wasn't just hunger for food. It was a deeper spiritual sickness, a yearning for the familiar misery over the challenging uncertainty of liberation. This constant murmuring, this wave of ingratitude, fell heavily upon Moses. He was their leader, their lawgiver, their intercessor, but he was also a man. The weight of carrying an entire nation's complaints pushed him to his breaking point. In a moment of profound human anguish, he cries out to God, "I am not able to bear all this people alone because it is too heavy for me." It's a powerful admission of his own limits. Leadership, especially spiritual leadership, was never meant to be a solitary burden. God, in his wisdom, heard Moses' plea. The solution was not to make Moses stronger, but to distribute the load. Thus, a new chapter of leadership began. God instructed Moses to gather 70 elders of Israel, men known for their wisdom and integrity. Upon these 70, God would take a portion of the Spirit that was on Moses and place it upon them. They would share the burden of the people, so Moses would not have to bear it alone. This was a pivotal moment, the decentralization of spiritual authority. It was a divine lesson in community, showing that the health of a nation depends on shared responsibility, not on the superhuman strength of a single individual. The Spirit descended, and the elders began to prophesy, a sign to all that God's authority now flowed through many channels. With the leadership structure reinforced, God addressed the people's craving. He promised them meat, not for a day or two, but for a whole month, until it came out of their nostrils and became loathsome to them. This was a judgment wrapped in a gift. The people had lusted, and God would give them what they lusted for in such abundance that it would sicken them. A wind from the Lord brought quail from the sea, dropping them all around the camp. The people gathered greedily, hoarding the birds day and night. But while the meat was still between their teeth, before it was even chewed, the wrath of the Lord was kindled. A great plague broke out, striking down those who had indulged their gluttony. The place was named Kibroth Hattaavah, the graves of craving, a permanent scar on the landscape and in their history, a testament to the destructive power of unchecked desire. The challenges, however, were far from over. The rebellion of the people had been a slow, simmering discontent. What came next was a direct, calculated assault on the very foundation of the authority established by God. Korah, a man of the tribe of Levi, a cousin to Moses and Aaron, rose up. He was not a fringe outcast. He was an insider, a man of status and lineage. And he was not alone. He gathered Dathan and Abiram, leaders from the tribe of Reuben, and 250 other princes of the assembly, famous in the congregation, men of renown. Korah's argument was cunning, a masterpiece of spiritual manipulation. He approached Moses and Aaron and declared, "You take too much upon yourselves, for all the congregation is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why then do you lift yourselves up above the assembly of the Lord?" On the surface it sounded righteous. He used the language of piety, asserting the holiness of all people. But beneath this veneer was a toxic cocktail of envy, pride, and ambition. He didn't want shared holiness. He wanted the unique authority that God had given to Moses and Aaron. He coveted the priesthood, believing his lineage entitled him to it. This was not a debate about policy. It was a direct challenge to God's chosen order. Moses, deeply grieved, understood the gravity of the situation. This was not a matter he could resolve through negotiation. He fell on his face, once again turning to God as the ultimate arbiter. He then proposed a test. He told Korah and his followers to take censers, put fire and incense in them, and stand before the Lord the next day, alongside Aaron, the man whom the Lord chooses. Moses declared, "He shall be holy." The stage was set for a terrifying and decisive confrontation. It was a moment of truth, where the ground itself would bear witness to God's judgment. The next day the assembly gathered. Korah and his 250 followers stood with their censers at the door of the tabernacle, a defiant force facing Moses and Aaron. The glory of the Lord appeared to all the congregation, and a divine voice commanded Moses and Aaron to separate themselves from this rebellious assembly, for he would consume them in a moment. But Moses and Aaron interceded, pleading for the people, asking if God would destroy the entire assembly for the sin of one man's faction. The command then came to the congregation, "Depart from the tents of these wicked men." The people drew back, creating a chilling, empty space around the dwellings of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Moses then made a solemn declaration. He told the people they would know the Lord had sent him, not of his own will, if a new thing were to happen. If these men died a common death, then God had not spoken through him. But if the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them and all that belonged to them, then all Israel would know that these men had rejected the Lord. As soon as he finished speaking, the ground beneath their feet split apart. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them. Korah, his household, the men who had joined him, and all their possessions. They went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed over them. They perished from among the assembly. A terrified cry went up from all of Israel as they fled, fearing the earth would swallow them too. At the same moment, a fire came out from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who had offered the incense, their censers falling to the ground. The rebellion was over. The judgment was swift, absolute, and terrifying. It was a visceral, unforgettable lesson etched into the memory of the survivors. Proximity to God, they learned, is not a guarantee of safety, but a call to holiness. Leadership is a divine appointment, not a political prize to be won. And rebellion, born from envy and pride, leads only to destruction. The wilderness journey continued, but the graves of craving and the chasm that swallowed Korah served as permanent silent warnings along the path to the promised land. Thank you for watching. If you found this reflection meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories from our shared spiritual heritage.